you know. But this John Joyce, his father, he was a perfect gentleman. My mother knew him when she was a girl, like, seeing him around the place. She remembered him, and he was there, and his wife was there, of course, and he was still there, and he was a frightfully strong man, and he was a man around 6 feet tall, or 5'11" or so, but he had steel rods in his. He was so strong, and anyways, there was a man one time from out Finney side, that's 12 miles away, and on the Pattern Day in Leenane there's a fair, like, and the people bring out their stock to sell in the village of Leenane, and then there's tents there selling booze and selling food and selling candy and all that kind of stuff. This John Joyce, he was at the Pattern, you see, and his friends with him, they were all around him. And this man and his wife came in on a horse, and from Finney, and she was riding pillion behind him. So they got down and he tied up his horse someplace, and then he asked the people around, could they tell him where John Joyce was, the strong man. So, and that's him over there. So he went over to him, and he challenged him to a fight. He said, he said, you were the strongest man in Connemara, and I'd like to prove I'm stronger than you, he said. And he said, if you'd have a wrestling match, he said, we'll find out. So my grandfather said, great grandfather said, why should I fight with you? He said, I don't even know you, I'm nothing against you. And I said, I only fight with people I have anything against, I said. And if I do, he said, they know it. But he says, why should I? So, anyways, the crowd, his friends, go on, John, take him on, please the man, will you? So, and like back in those days, you didn't wear belts on your pants. You wore braces over your shoulders and 2 buttons in the back to keep your pants up. So, anyways, they took off their coats, and they got him to a fair wrestling match. So as soon as my great-grandfather got a hold of him, he knew he was up against a very strong man. As soon as he grabbed him, he knew that there was strength there, you know. And he said the only way he could, you know, make sure that he could get him was to wear down his strength. So anyways, he got his grip on him, and he kept that grip on him, and he never let it go. And his wife was watching, and he got the next thing she could see her husband's knees were buckling. He had no power left in his knees. His back was like with the grip that was on him. So what did she do but run into back of my grandfather and open the 2 buttons. And of course, so they did the pants when they come down, and being a gentleman, like he wouldn't want anyone to see him with his pants down, and he had to let go of the man and grab his pants and pull it up and tie it again. So then as soon as he tied the buttons again, he said to the man, he said, do you want to continue? No, sir, he said, you're a better man than me. So the man then, he will come in and we'll have a drink. So they went into a tent, and they had a couple of drinks, and got his wife a drink too, and even though she opened his pants, and the 2 of them got up on their horse, and they went home to Finney, 12 miles away, satisfied that Joyce was stronger than him. But anyway, then one time, Lord Sligo in Westport, he was one of the ones that kissed Elizabeth's rear end, you see, or Victoria, one of these queens of England, and he was sent over to Ireland, given a whole tract of land. And every piece of land that he owned, then you see, all the farmers that were living on this land, they became his tenants, and they had to pay him rent, even though they owned the land. But because he was after getting from the English government, he became their landlord. So, anyways, then Lord Sligo in Westport, he had a big house just down below in the domain below the quarter mile down from the town. And there was a man, he was the kind of the law and order of everything, because he owned most of the town, he owned most of it. And he owned land out as far as Ashley Waterfall and over to Delphi and away around about. He owned all that land, and away down towards Louisburg. He had an awful sight of land, this guy. And everybody under it, like they were working for him as herds, minding his sheep or anything, and that's the way they had to do it in those days. So anyways, oh yeah, there was this in the town. Was every Thursday was market day, and all the country people would go in selling chickens or sheep or whatever they had to sell, and or buying and shopping and all the rest of it. But there was this pugilist in Westport, a big bruiser of a man, and he used to get at the countrymen like, and he'd scare the life out of them. They'd all stand him and drink, you know. And when he got a couple of whiskies in him, like then he wanted to fight. And like he was an awful nuisance. So Sligo, being the lord and master of the town, he'd have to have him, a bunch of guys put him in jail. And he'd keep him in jail for a week, and then he'd let him out again, you see. And because he had to feed him when he was in. So he'd keep him in there for a while, trying to calm him down, and finally he'd let him out. And Thursday come around again, and the same thing used to happen. He'd get a few drinks and make the people buy. They're all buy for him because they're afraid of him. You see, the country people. And it was, Sligo was getting fed up of putting this guy in jail and not curing him. So he had heard about John Joyce being a powerful man. So, so he give this pugilist a horse and saddle and sent him out to Ashmount to John Joyce to tell John Joyce that Lord Sligo would like if he come in, that he wanted to talk to him. So anyways, my grandfather, like, he said yes, he'd go in. But the custom was in those days, you took care of the man, you fed him his dinner, like, and you fed the horse, and just give him a drink and stabled him and fed him. That was the custom, like, in those days. And so when your man had his dinner over, anyways, and the horse had rested, my grandfather yoked up his own horse and saddle, and they rode into Westport. Now, when they got halfway down, they came to the halfway house. And it was a funny thing about it, was a man named J Hastings that owned it. And his son Darby owned it later, and his Darby's son owned it later, and then they sold it to somebody else, and they enlarged the place, and it's a big kind of a nightclub place now. But anyways, you never went by on a horse like without going in for a drink and rest your horse at the same time and give him a bit of something to eat. So anyways, when they got down to the house, my grandfather didn't know anything about this pugilist, like that he was a fighter or anything. And anyways, they went in the thing, and there was 3 or 4 local farmers, like, in having a pint, and when John Joyce went in with this pugilist, like, and the 4 farmers right away saw the guy, and they knew there'd be trouble, like, that they were scared stiff of him, like, they knew him from Westport. My grandfather never heard about him, like, he didn't know anything about him. But anyways, he called a drink for the whole lot, you see, and then he called a second. But John Joyce had a bit of money, you see, and he called another drink. And when the guy got the second whiskey into him, then he wanted to fight. He challenged the 4 guys that he'd take the whole 4 of them on, you see. So my grandfather said to conduct yourself, he says, those men are in my company, so you conduct yourself. So when he said that to him, didn't he challenge John Joyce? Well, that was a mistake. He challenged John Joyce. So I knew John Joyce took off like that, and they squared after him, and John Joyce took a punch. He never saw it coming, but he wound up under a forum at the end of the bar, on the ground. If there was a wall outside, he'd have gone out in the yard, but he stuck under the forum. And he was out cold. So they went back to the thing anyways, and then the guy started telling my grandfather what he used to do in Westport. So, and it was, they finished up their drinking. Finally, my grandfather took the jug of water that was for whiskey on the thing, and he went over and slung it in his face, and that woke him up. So he said, would you like some more? No sir, no sir, no sir, he didn't want any more. So they got up on their horse anyways, and the two rode into Westport. Not a word was spoken, all the way in. So, and it was, when they got to the Westport House, he knew his way around, so he went around to the stables at the back. My grandfather went into the front door, So as soon as he did, a groom come around and took his horse and brought him around the back, and Sligo opened the door for him himself. So they went in anyways, and they were talking. And the next thing was, your man come running through the thing, through the house, and into the room where they were. And he complained to Sligo what this man had done to him. So anyways, Sligo said to him, now he said, in future, he says, when you take drink and you go fighting, he says, I'll send for Mr. Joyce, he said, and he'll come in and do a real job on you. You know, that cured the guy. He was afraid to get drunk and go fighting people after that, because Joyce gave him such an awful smash, like it put him across the whole floor in under the forum, you know, with the power he had. So the guy figured he didn't want to have anything to do with Joyce. But anyway, Joyce then, my grandfather, he was down at Ashley Bridge, and they're after putting a new bridge on there now. And the old bridge that was in it in the olden days was wood, and during the troubled times it was burnt by the local boys. And my father went down. My father went down to he heard about the bridge was gone up, like, and he brought an axe with him, and he cut branches of trees, and he blocked the whole road, so people wouldn't come along in the dark and fall into the river. You see, they wouldn't see anything. So he got the Wallaces, I think, they blocked the far side. He got someone else to block the far side. So, and it was, now there's a new, didn't they put a metal bridge in it, but it was narrow. One car could only cross it. Now they have a bridge that there's two buses can cross it, and there's also two footpaths for pedestrians to walk. So it's a beautiful thing now. I got a picture of it here in the house. But didn't he meet down at Ashley Bridge, didn't he meet Sligo? And after what he did for him, like going in and quieting this guy in the town, he said to him that he'd like to give him something, like to pay him off. Like, and so he said, I'll give you from here to the Pinty Guard. That was about 2 miles down back the road. I'll give you all that side of mountain. So you couldn't do that, said John Joyce to him. You couldn't give me that land. He said, it's not yours. That belongs to the people that's living on it. Oh, he said, no. He said, I own the land, and I give it all to you, and they can pay your rent. And he said, no, paying me any rent. He said, I got plenty of land. And he said, there's no man going to take it off me either, he says. He let him know that. Don't try, or he'd be in trouble. So he says, leave the people where they are. That's their land. He said, I don't want it. So that was John Joyce now. So I think that's a good crack. Yeah.